So my first video to feminists got lots of views, lots of likes. You seem to like what I have to say. But one of the most popular comments was, where can I find a man like this? But here's the thing, I have a phone book full of men like this. So today I'm going to tell you why they don't see you and don't care. But before I do, I have to tell you something very important. This life is not perfect. And I have heard of some stories where you think, and I've seen with my own eyes, situations where if you asked me before they got married, I would have said, yeah, marry that guy, he's a great guy. But you never know what's going to happen. And even good people do bad things. This is the way of the world. So the most important thing to understand is that our relationship, it's only with God. If there's anything which happens in this life, if the rain falls, or if somebody hits me or doesn't hit me, if a bird comes, whatever happens is by the will of God. Anything which is going to happen, it's by the will of God. And so bad things can also happen in your life. Even if you choose what looks to be a good husband, even if you act perfectly in relation to him, it can still happen that he divorces you and leaves you with no money and takes the kids. And I've heard similar situations, by the way, of wives doing bad things to husbands, just leaving with the kids. Next thing you know, he gets a phone call, his kids are gone. So the most important thing is to have a personal relationship with God. That's the most important. Pray and do everything that is perfect. Don't make any mistakes, regardless of how people treat you or whatever the situation is. Just be perfect. And if you suffer and if you end up poor and all of these things, don't change. Just stay the same way, perfect in religion. Wallahi, the difficulties, they are part of the opportunity to become a better person and to earn more reward. So if you have difficulties and if people treat you bad, use it as an opportunity to react, to show gratitude to God, even in difficult situations, and even when people mistreat you, and even when all of the bad things happen, even then, to still be perfect inside your heart. But I am going to tell you actually, why is it that these guys who I know don't marry all of these girls who are asking, where can I find such a guy? Well, you have to understand, first of all, why will a husband be good to you? Why will he treat you so well? Because he doesn't care about this life. That's why he's going to be a good husband. So if he doesn't care about this life, he doesn't need to marry you either. He's not obsessed with sex. He doesn't need to marry you. I'm only interested in religion. I'm scared for myself. I don't care about your cooking, your face. If you're going to make my life worse after I die, why do I need you in my life? Because even if you're going to make it better, it's difficult for me. Even if you're a perfect woman, imagine you give me somebody, similar to Aisha or Khadija, it's still a difficulty for me. I still need to take care of her. It's a person to think about. It's a person I'm responsible for. So imagine, why would I put that difficulty on myself unless it's beneficial for my religion? And even if it's beneficial, you have to understand, it's still a difficulty for me. It's a completely different decision for a woman and a man. Now, there's a certain difficulty for a woman when she gets married because she has to, it's a big risk. Because she puts her life in the hands of another person. It's a big risk. But there's also a certain difficulty which the man has, even though he doesn't have that difficulty, he has a different difficulty, which the woman doesn't have, which is, it's a whole responsibility for your entire life. Not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually, in all aspects. I have to support that woman and make sure that her life is perfect. She can have weak moments, she can suffer. I have to take care of that. If she gets sick, that's my responsibility. Maybe we get married, the next day she gets disabled until she dies. I have to take care of her the whole life. So this is a decision where if I'm going to choose somebody, this has to really be somebody who's good for my religion. And to be honest, most people today, they just have very low standards as to what that means. They think if they pray 5 times a day, that's it, That means, as if they're expecting to have a very good husband, By the way, I know people who pray 5 times a day and they don't wear hijab. But even if you wear hijab, even if you pray 5 times a day and you're constantly in the mosque, I know such girls also who I wouldn't marry, who I made the decision not to marry, because the standards have just gotten so low. There are many brothers today who, when they just see a girl who wears hijab, she goes to religious lessons, she studies, for them it's enough. They think, okay, she's perfect, I'm going to marry her. But you have to understand, those people usually, it's because they're not very strong in the deen. And so they're seeing the woman as somebody that's going to bring them to the deen. At the end of the day, none of us is perfect. And honestly, I can speak for myself. If I'm going to get married to someone, I have a big resistance to doing that, because why would I want to put into my life somebody else who is going to take me away from this beautiful life that I'm trying to live, which this world itself is pulling me away from. One of the most important things that I'll tell you is about submission. What is a woman's strength? What is a man's strength? These are not the same. A woman's strength is completely different. And I want to remind you, I know situations where sisters suffered because they invested into a man, they spent years of their life, and he just left them with nothing. And supposedly he looked like a good guy before they married him. I know these stories, but this doesn't change. What is it to be a good wife? What is it to look like a good potential wife? And one of these things is feminine strength, which is not masculine strength. If someone is arguing with you and they say something very nasty to you and you just stay silent, you just keep it and you allow them to experience that moment. This is something which is a strength. And this is silence. This is not engaging, even when somebody says something nasty to you. Actually, to argue and attack them, oh, who are you? Why did you do this? That's not strength. The strength is to be silent and to live your own life. That's a strength. Now, what is a woman's strength inside of marriage? It's this kind of strength. There are going to be difficulties in the marriage. Your husband is probably not going to be perfect. This life is probably not going to be perfect. Maybe it will rain. Maybe the economy will tank. War can happen. Or maybe your husband himself makes a mistake. But for any of these reasons, you can experience difficulty. Your life can suffer, whether it's his action or because of something that he didn't manage to keep you protected from. In any case, if you suffer, the strength of the wife is to still be strong and still be soft and still be feminine. This is not easy. This is a real power and strength. Nobody said that women are children. This is a real adulthood power, to be strong and to still be a good, beautiful, loving wife, even though there's a difficulty. And maybe even if the husband is mistreating you. Just because he's mistreating you doesn't mean that you should now not be nice to him. It doesn't mean that. Now, of course, if he's not fulfilling his obligations, you can get a divorce with him. But it still doesn't mean that during that divorce you should be bad to him. In all situations, you should be good to him, and he should be good to you, even though he doesn't do it. So if you're asking, where can I find this man? 2 simple solutions. Number 1, this life is nothing. So you might think, oh, this guy, he's so good. So what? You'll get married to him, he's not perfect. You will probably suffer. You will probably be disappointed. So number 1, this life is nothing. Don't forget that. Because even if you marry a great guy, a bad thing can happen. Or even if you don't get divorced, but it just won't be what you're expecting it to be, most likely. So that's number 1. Don't forget that. Be attached to Allah. Be attached to paradise. Don't be attached to some guy as if some guy is going to save your life. Number 2, if you do want to find a husband, which is what's best, I should get married, you should get married. But if you do want to find a husband, the best thing to do is to be strong. Find this inner strength inside of yourself to still be soft, to still be beautiful, to still be kind, not to say anything bad, not to put anybody down. If a man is behaving like a weak nothing, don't say it. You don't need to marry him, but you don't need to attack him either. This is your beauty. And if you nurture this inside of yourself, this is what makes you beautiful and attractive as a spouse. Of course, reciting the Quran and all of these things, this is almost a given. This is understood, it should be obvious. If I open a page and I see no face, I see Quran, I see a mushaf, I see some Islamic knowledge, I see dhikr, these things, this is what's beautiful. This is what's going to attract a man who's a good man, the man you want. Otherwise, if you're still trying with these other ways, so of course, if you put dirt out, you're going to attract flies. Depending on what you put out there, that's what's going to come to you. But don't forget, even if you do everything perfectly, it still might not come to you. Or it might come to you and it ends up bad. So keep your heart with God. That's the only thing which actually will never leave you.